Welcome to this third video in a series dedicated to creating a professional brand name for your business or product. I am Martin Saname, and I'm so happy to finally being able to record this from our office studio. So, let's get to work. Previously, we covered the qualities of a good brand name, and then went over 7 exercises to come up with a winning name. Now we're going to talk about a couple of things that you should try to avoid and others that you should consider to optimize your brand name for the web. Remember that we talked about using translated words, alternate spelling, and if it added value to your brand, a family surname? Well, in either of these cases, you will want to pay careful attention to the pronunciation of your brand name. Avoid confusing or difficult pronunciations that might be hard to understand verbally, because you don't want to end up not receiving an email for your first big order or contract just because the person you were talking to on the phone misspelled your brand name's domain. For example, the brand Lamborghini, manufacturer of exotic Italian cars, is written with an H after the G, but that is not obvious when you hear it. The end of Lamborghini sounds just like guinea as in guinea pig. So someone who has never heard that name before might actually think that it's spelled like this. So even when you are going to use visual media to promote your brand, try to avoid names that have unusual pronunciation. Another thing that you should try to avoid is using a very long name. And this comes from a person who chose to name his firm Advanced Visual Communication Design. Well, in my case, I wanted to use ABCD for my brand for 2 reasons. 1, I created the firm to bid on a design project, and I thought that it was very likely that at some point the competing firms would be organized alphabetically, and that the people looking at the bid proposals could start off being thorough, but as the day wore on, so would their energy, and they might be skimming through the remaining proposals just to get done with them. So I wanted to make sure that my proposal was marked first. Thus, I had to come up with a name that started with the letter A. Now, having made that decision, I wanted to name my firm ABCD for the familiarity, the recognizability. So I decided to turn it into an acronym and figure out a meaning for each letter. So the D came first for design, of course, and then came the A after looking for an adjective that was descriptive of what we did, but also differentiated us. So I chose advanced, given my experience with functional design from a manufacturing standpoint, and our 3D design and audiovisual production capabilities. Finally, after a lot of thinking, we decided to use visual communications because it's what we specialize in. Graphic media is, after all, visual. And by changing the B for a V, we had come up with an intriguing acronym. Why ABCD instead of ABCD? Was it a mistake? Misspelled words always spark curiosity and drive people to find out if the spelling is indeed an error or has a special meaning. Anyways, ABCD was short, recognizable, but we jumped the gun and registered the full brand name before buying the domain, and later discovered that it had already been registered under another company that did audio and video installations. Not only that, but the ABCD handle was not available on all social media platforms. So we had to come up with a plan B and settled for the first syllable of each word within our company name, thus our current domain and social media handles. Now, add the code worked out fine, but now we have a brand recognizability issue. Is it ABCD? Is it add the code? Well, that's the sort of issues that happen when you have less than 2 weeks to write a design proposal that includes environmental graphics and signage for a medical building, and also come up with a company name and register it before submitting your proposal. Now, we could have just decided to use the full brand name for the domain and social media, right? Why didn't we do that? Well, because, and this is the reason why we recommend avoiding long names, especially domain names, it would just take too long to type, especially in a smartphone. Your online presence has to be easy to access. And with people using their smartphones to surf the web 90% of the time, you have to be practical and use short terms that can be easily typed on a portable digital device. So, if your brand name is a bit long, try an acronym or abbreviation for it, at least for its domain and social media handles. Some brands that use abbreviated versions of their names are American Express, Federal Express, and Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. And some brands that use the acronym of their names are American Airlines, Bavarian Motor Works, Consumer Value Stores, and United Parcel Service, just to name a few. Now, remember Express Auto Acoustics? Cool name, rather long to type. Well, we searched for shorter alternatives for its domain and found that these are available: xacoustics.com, expressaa.com, and xautoa.com. Xautoa is the shortest. ExpressAA is cool, but some people might associate the AA with other companies or organizations. Xacoustics, however, sounds really cool. So the same criteria that applies to the selection of your brand name can be applied to the selection of your domain. Just keep in mind that, as far as domains are concerned, shorter is better for the user. And the user is your client, so make finding you as easy as possible to your client. However, whichever the reason to justify your brand name choice, whether you wanted it to start with the letter A for alphabetical order considerations, for example, don't push your name, don't force it, don't use a name that has no meaning behind it. For example, don't name your business AAA Carpet Cleaning just to be at the top of some listing and give no meaning to the 3 A's. That speaks poorly of you and your brand. It gives the impression that you didn't make enough of an effort to come up with an intelligent, meaningful name. Now, there's one last part of your brand name that I want to talk to you about, and that's what is known as the descriptor. A descriptor is an information statement that does just what the name says. It describes what your brand does. And it is generally written in small type accompanying your logo. Not all brand names require a descriptor, like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks Coffee, but those with conceptual names like Cold Stone or CVS do. Descriptors are generally used when brands are introduced and later dismissed or phased out once their corresponding brands have gained enough recognition as an Apple computer or Tesla Motors, now generally recognized as Apple and Tesla. Keep your descriptor brief, because the longer the descriptor, the smaller it will appear when printed or displayed. And do not confuse descriptor with slogan. A slogan is a catchphrase used in the marketing of your brand, and slogans change frequently. Descriptors do not. So, we have now covered all the bases related to creating a winning brand name, and I really hope you have found this information useful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, and I will reply to them as quickly as possible. Feel free to share this video or subscribe to this channel, as we will now move on to talk about my favorite logo design in the next series of videos. So, until next time, stay creative and thank you for watching.